The call came during a meeting. 8 faces around a polished table froze when I stood up without explanation. "Sir, it's your son's school," the receptionist whispered. "They said to come immediately. Immediately. Not urgently, not as soon as possible, immediately." When I arrived, the street was choked with flashing lights, ambulances, 2 cruisers, a cluster of parents kept back behind yellow tape. My pulse didn't spike, not yet. A lifetime of self-control held it down like a hand on a trembling animal. The principal met me at the door, pale and sweating. "Who cooks for him?" he asked. No greeting, no explanation, just that question. "My mother-in-law packed his lunch today." His face changed. Relief, then fear, then something else entirely. "We found something in it," he said. "Police are here." An officer stepped forward. "Sir," he said gently, "before you see your son, you need to look at this." He held out the lunchbox. My son's lunchbox. Blue, scratched at the corners, a dinosaur sticker peeling at the edge. I opened it. My hands began to shake, not because of what was inside, but because of what it meant. Inside the lunchbox was a neatly folded sandwich, cut diagonally, crust removed, exactly how my mother-in-law prepared it. Except the bread was dusted with a fine, pale residue. The officer slid a small evidence bag beside it. White powder, labeled. My throat tightened. "You're saying she put this in his food?" I asked. The officer didn't answer. Protocol prevented it, but his eyes did. "We need to question her," he said. "She's on her way here." The principal hovered behind him like a man trying to disappear into the floor. "I told you," he muttered. "I told you something was wrong with that family." That family! My wife's mother. A woman who smiled too wide, held grudges too long, and inserted herself into our lives with the entitled grace of someone convinced she knew best. But this crossed into a new realm. I replayed the morning in my mind. My son grabbing his backpack, her saying, "Eat every bite, sweetheart," the way her hand lingered on the lunchbox a moment too long. Had there been something in her tone? A tremor? A strange insistence? I hadn't noticed, or maybe I hadn't wanted to. The officer cleared his throat. "Your son ingested a small amount," he said. "Not enough to cause permanent harm, but we need to determine intent." Intent, a word that can split a life in half. My mind began stitching pieces together. Past comments, small manipulations, moments I brushed off as tension between in-laws. A pattern forming beneath the surface, a betrayal hiding in plain sight. While my son underwent tests, I sat in a small, windowless room with a plastic chair and a table designed to make anyone feel guilty. I wasn't guilty, but I was thinking, deeply, quietly, strategically. I replayed every interaction with my mother-in-law in the months leading up to this moment. Her subtle criticisms of my parenting, her comments about my work schedule, her obsession with being needed, her fixation on routines she could control, and then the bigger things, the financial disagreements, the accidental interference in decisions, the manipulation disguised as concern. All small fractures, until now. This was no fracture. This was structural failure. I pulled out my laptop, not to act, but to observe. Phone records, credit card statements, shared calendars, photos she had taken of my son's meals over the last few weeks. Evidence of a pattern began to emerge. Daily lunches packed by her, insistence on doing it alone, multiple purchases of supplements, none dangerous but many unregulated, and a note she had texted my wife last night. "He'll be fine tomorrow, trust me." Trust. The most fragile currency. I requested surveillance footage from the school's entry hallway. The principal, shaken and desperate to appear cooperative, complied. At 7:38 a.m., the camera caught her handing the lunchbox to my son. At 7:39, she looked directly into the lens. Her face calm, serene, almost rehearsed, as if she expected to be watched, and didn't care. The officer returned. "She's here," he said. "My wife's mother. A woman with a talent for playing victim. A woman who would cry on cue. A woman who had never expected scrutiny. Before you talk to her," the officer said, "you may want to see the preliminary report." He handed it to me. I read the first line, and everything inside me went still. The powder wasn't a toxin, it was a sedative. A strong one, still prescription only, obtained illegally. My mother-in-law claimed she used it to calm him down, that he'd been too energetic, that she meant no harm. But intent, that word again, wasn't the issue. Control was. The officer let me watch through the one-way window as she justified herself. "I wasn't trying to hurt him," she said. "I'm just helping. He listens to me. He trusts me." My wife sat beside her, stunned, broken, realizing too late what years of subtle manipulation had shielded. When the officer asked why she hadn't told us, she snapped, "Because his father doesn't understand him. Someone has to take charge." Her voice trembled with indignation, not remorse, as if she were the one being wronged. The detective slid my compiled evidence toward her: photos, timestamps, receipts. She stopped speaking, stopped breathing. Her facade fractured in silence. My wife buried her face in her hands, a quiet sob. Not for me, not for her mother. For the moment her world split open. I stepped into the room, not to confront, not to accuse, just to look at her. She trembled under my gaze, the way people tremble when the truth finally corners them. "You drugged my son," I said softly. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again, but no words came, because any answer would be too small for the damage she'd done. I didn't yell, didn't threaten, didn't give her the drama she fed on. Instead, I placed the school surveillance photo in front of her, and beside it, the lab results, the receipts, the messages, the timeline, a complete map of her intentions. "Every authority you've manipulated," I said quietly, "will now see the truth you worked so hard to hide." Her mask shattered. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I'm not doing anything," I replied. "You did." Her voice broke. "I'm family." "No," I said. "Family protects. You controlled." She reached for my wife's hand. My wife pulled away. That was the moment her world collapsed. Not when the police took her statement, not when the detective mentioned felony charges, but when her daughter, the one she had conditioned for years, looked at her and saw a stranger. "You will never be alone with him again," I said. Her breath hitched. "And every system you manipulated to hide behind," I added, "now sees you clearly." A single tear slid down her cheek. Not remorse, fear, the kind born from exposure. My son woke later that evening, confused, drowsy, safe. He asked why everyone looked so serious. I told him the simplest truth. Someone made a mistake. We won't let it happen again. He nodded, trusting me without question, the trust she had tried to redirect toward herself. As he drifted back to sleep, I watched his chest rise and fall, steady, calm, unharmed. The investigation would take weeks, trials, hearings, statements, but the outcome was already sealed, because once truth is uncovered, fully, brutally, undeniably, it can't be buried again. My wife stood beside me. "I didn't see it," she whispered. "She didn't want you to," I replied. She leaned into me, not for comfort, but for clarity. As we turned off the hospital lights, a final thought settled into place. Some betrayals poison the body. Others poison trust. Only one is irreversible. And I walked out of the room knowing which one she had chosen.